And we are live. Hey, Melissa, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm very excited for tonight. I've been blazing through your book here.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I'm not quite finished. I got about 100 pages left, but
Okay.
I'm loving it so far. And for anyone who's watching, I would definitely go pick up this book. It is amazing. It's a nice feel-good read. Um,
Oh, great.
and I'm looking forward to more of your books coming out, hopefully soon.
Yes, well, you and me both. I just have to get them written.
Exactly. Well, other than that, how are things going for you? I know we briefly just caught up for a second here, but how are things over in Toronto?
Things are good. Toronto is getting a little bit snowy, which I love. I'm a
Yeah.
winter person, so I was out today. There's a lot more snow like around the city, but we're hanging in here. I'm a winter person, so
Okay.
I'm pro snow. What about you?
Yeah, I would say so. It is -4 degrees in Chicago right now, and just bitter cold. I also I like the seasons, if you will,
Yes.
and usually in December around this time, it's generally like 25, 35 with snow, and you get a little bit of a white Christmas, right? And it's
Hmm.
still okay to like be outside and move around. Here right now, it's uncharacteristically cold for this time of year, and you're just trying to, get in and get out to where you need to go. You don't want to spend as little time outside as possible,
Well,
but
I love that you like the seasons. I like the seasons too. I lived at one point out west in Victoria on Vancouver Island, and it's
okay.
spring there all year long, and I did not like that.
I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was a kid, right? The seasons always meant like I had to get off my bike and go inside and watch TV. Couldn't hang out with my friends after school, right? So I kind of hated winter, and was waiting for spring and summer to come back around. But now, there is something really nice about. I like fall a lot too. I really appreciate
Mhm.
when it gets a little cooler, and it's not as like in Chicago it gets really humid. So I
Mhm.
appreciate when that like leaves us for a little bit and I can go see the leaves change. And there's always like festivities that come with fall. So more and more I guess I'm maturing, Melissa. What do you think?
I think so, but I was started to laugh here because Canadians are always made fun of because we love to talk about the weather. Is it the same like where you're from? It was like, oh, we're having a Canadian conversation.
Yeah. A lot of my friends get irritated for me when I start talking about the weather.
Yeah,
But
I
I feel
love
like
it.
it's the
Yeah,
first thing that kind of impacts me when I get out in the morning, just okay, today
totally.
was this day, this day was that day, right? So
I
um
love it. Yep. Yep.
it's
Me too. Yep.
yeah. But other than that, have you been like I see you've been like going on other people's channels, maybe having conversations with them about your book as well. How is that going? It seems like you're doing like a little bit of a digital tour.
That's right. I'm cheating on you, am I?
Uh, Come on, Melissa. I thought we had a good thing going.
Yes, I've been doing some podcasts to talk about my
Nice.
book, and
Yeah.
that's been very interesting because for many years I was on the other side. I was the interviewer, not the interviewee.
Yeah.
So that's been quite interesting.
Yeah. And how do you feel about this phase of life you're in where you're speaking to different people about your travel experiences and things of that sort versus obviously you're still living and taking in new experiences, but how does it feel that you're in a space now where you're sharing your experiences more often?
I think it's really interesting because it kind of makes you see them differently, like especially because every interviewer is different
Right.
and they ask things that maybe the person before you didn't. And I guess it just makes you like really think about what all these experiences have done for me or changed me
Yeah.
or my perspective on them. So it's actually really interesting to reflect, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's super interesting. I am in the part of the book where you were sitting in the little boat in Vietnam and it was thrown up in bags, and so that is a funny experience.
Yeah,
So
of course.
that's where I'm at in the book right now, and I know you guys opted for the ferry on the way back, so you have
Hmm.
to go through that experience again, but.
Hmm.
It seems like, I don't know, from my synopsis of where I'm at in the book, right? And I'll just speak candidly, right? It seems like, right, like you're a very particular individual, right? You have your ways about you, and you're very you seem to have a clear vision on what you want. and I think that's commendable, right? And then I think you have someone like James who comes in, who is a very, how do I put it? He's very chipper. He's very playful. It seems like he's
Mm.
very, I don't know how to put it. He seems like a boy, right? Like just maybe kind of like me, just like, oh, we'll just go there and we'll figure it out, right?
Mm.
And that's my synopsis of where I'm at in the book right
Oh,
now.
that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. And I would just I don't know. It's so interesting. There's so many overlapping questions that are going on right now because in 2010 I actually graduated high school.
Mm. So you're
And
much younger than me. Let's just point that out.
age is just a number, huh, Melissa?
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Now tell me. So again, when you wrote, I think it was like maybe March of 2010 when you were sitting at O'Hare, and that
Hmm.
really I felt something in that moment when I was reading because I sit at O'Hare a lot, right? I travel often, and I find myself either when I'm with my wife or if I'm traveling by myself. I tend to just people watch and walk around the airport, right, and try to like listen in on things, like kind of lurk and see what's going on. But take me back to like where your mindset was back in 2010 when you first got this opportunity to go travel with James.
Yeah. So, it was a very easy choice for me because we had traveled a lot, like for 4 or 5 years before this trip. So I knew that that part, I mean, was a no-brainer. Like he was an amazing person to travel with. We were on the same page, so that was fine. And I was not in love with my work. So a lot of that was actually very, very easy for me. I mean, it's always the what happens after part is the part that plagues you before you've even left or come back. It's that part. I think like going off and doing anything is like who wouldn't want to quit their job to leave
Right.
everyone they know behind for a while and just like have a massive adventure.
Yeah,
But it's always like, but then what? So I was more concerned about the beginning, about the end than anything else.
that's very interesting. That is
Yeah.
very interesting. Like I mean that makes sense, right? Because
Hmm.
you knew that there was this adventure ahead of you, right?
Yes.
And there was a lot of there was probably a lot of planning that you and James were doing, scoping out the trip, right? And that's very feet on the ground, very technical. But what you don't account for is the person you become after that, right?
Yes, and also he and I, there were so many question marks because we were not from the same country. We didn't have visas to be in the same country. So all of this was a big question mark, right? So
Yeah.
really all we were focusing on was the next few months, and then it was like, who knows after this what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that's so interesting about that is, and this is a little bit of a side. So there's a question that'll come out of this, but so me and my friends, we voice message a lot on WhatsApp, right? And so for after doing that over years, a lot of what I do is I'll go back and listen to the thoughts. I journal often. I'll go back and read who, like, who I was, right? And that's why your
Mm-hmm.
book is so interesting to me because it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like its own time capsule, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the things I speak about now are astronomically different than the things I spoke about 10 years ago, even when maybe 10, 15 years ago when I started journaling.
Yeah.
And sometimes you come back from something, all these experiences, little experiences like you mentioned with the kids, maybe in Laos, right? Like they're following you around, but they're all happy. They're very bare bones. They don't have a lot. You can tell they're malnourished, but they're smiling. And there's
Mm-hmm.
something to just like learn about that. And then you come back and you have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with spreadsheets and Outlook and just like the burden that society sometimes puts on you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. There's just like a gap there, right? Between and then
Mm-hmm.
you don't know how you're gonna come back. A lot of times I'll come back from travel and feel existential for like a week, and I'll have to kind of like turn myself down and be like, you can book another trip, right? It'll be okay. This is you also chose to live this life too. So
Yeah.
it's also really reassuring to hear that there's other people out there. I'm not saying that you experienced my exact story, but it seems like there are tangents there. There are parallels there in what we're both experiencing. And
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about specific relationships, there's one really cool quote just like right at the beginning of your book that I highlighted here. And it was like literally on the first page. And I'd love to hear more about it, right? And it goes, I don't feel an ounce of sadness leaving my friends and family on the other side of the world for a while. I'm finally secure enough in all my relationships to take a time out, knowing they will be there for me upon my return.
Mm.
And I love that. I absolutely love that. But I would love to know more about that. But like,
Ah, very good.
yeah, like what about them and the way you behave with them and the way you interact makes you feel so confident that it's all going to be there for you when you get back?
Very good question. Um, I think that my 20s were very complicated. I mean, no more complicated than anyone else's in their 20s.
Yeah.
But I left university before finishing it. I moved around a lot into different parts of Canada, like kind of trying to figure myself out, but I hadn't learned yet that it wasn't the place, it was me. And wherever I went, I would still be there.
Yeah.
So that was much of my 20s. And so I moved to Toronto when I was like 28 or 29. And I think that when I wrote that, what you read there, it was that I had finally like settled in to who I was and to me and to feeling like I had established some roots and connections with my family and with some friends, and that I wouldn't feel like lost, that I was like going away but I had something to come back to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it speaks to the self exploration that you've done for yourself, whether intentionally or unintentionally, right? Like you're gaining life experience and you're adjusting to from that life experience as well. And if we step into that journey a little bit more about, I love the phrasing of you can run from your problems, but they will find you, right? And I experienced similar things. But tell me a little bit more about that. Like, did it take you jumping around a lot to figure that out? Were you able to just reconcile like where you were, or what? How did that look?
Mm, I don't know. Like, I think that for me, the moving around a lot in my 20s made me realize that, yeah, that I had work to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I moved to this town north of Toronto called Barrie. It's like a small city. And it was the first time I stayed put. And that was where I actually felt a sigh of relief, because I was just like, I'm not running away anymore. And that can lead into its own debate. Are you running towards something or away from something when people talk about adventurous people and travel people? But I think that sort of helped me to kind of face who I was, and trust me, that is a lifetime journey. I'm still figuring it out at
yeah.
50. Actually, I'm 51 now. But yeah, so I think that there's something to actually staying put at some point in your life, to like just face the music and
Yeah,
look in
yeah.
the mirror. And I think traveling is interesting because you can kind of adapt different personas, and you can be different people, especially if you go on your own. If you're traveling solo or even doing a group trip with people you've never met before, you have nothing to prove to anybody. They don't know your history, they don't
Yeah.
really know anything about you. So there's something very interesting about like going away and doing things like this, where you maybe in some ways get in touch with your authentic self, and your like the way that you react to things, the way that you interact with people. It's quite fascinating.
Hmm.
But I think when you go home, you like, as you said earlier, within a week or so, you kind of like slip back into who you are at home. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many
Hmm.
interesting things about who we are in different situations.
Oh yeah, like then and that I couldn't resonate more with that statement. There's like one example that comes to mind, when you come back here, and I work in a corporate setting, right? So it's very, very, I don't know, it can be very jarring to come back to, right? Because it's just like, does this even, what are we talking about? Like what is it, does
Yeah.
it even matter, right? So
Yeah.
that'll happen a lot when I come back from a trip. But like for example, I'll see, let's say like my like a CEO that I used to work with, right? Um, we'll be talking and there's just like a level of demeanor or candor that I don't know, I could never have with somebody, just
Mm-hmm.
based on the person that I am and maybe the experiences that I've had. Like there's a certain way like I cannot be, I can't be domineering, I can't be, I don't know, I can't
Mm-hmm.
be disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. And so a lot of times, when I'll speak to this gentleman, I no longer work with him, but when I would speak to him, he's very, he can be condescending because what I'm realizing is that no one's really ever like checked him, right? Like he's been going through his life speaking to people this way. And I'm just making assumptions here, right? So just roll with me on that. And so when I think about something like that, I'll be like, dude, have you never like gone to like, I don't know, like a rural village? Have you never gone abroad and just had to like see a humble situation and get and someone not understand that you're a CEO and they should like treat you
Mhm.
with some like air of respect, right? And so though like to your point, like those are the exact experiences that like I'm hunting for, right? Where
Yes.
I can humble myself and constantly just get, I don't know, an observation and say, this person is living their lifestyle this way and I'm living mine. I'm living a nice lifestyle, and I don't need to be feeling entitled and things like that. Again, my problems are my own, right? I'm in my own sphere, so like I like to make sure they're relevant and I address them properly. But at the same time, you know, it when I get pissed off that someone's not reading my emails or something like that, I go, just wait a minute, you know
Mhm.
there's people, I don't know if this is the right perspective, but there's people all over the world experiencing different issues, humble, you have poverty all over the world, and I don't know, it just makes things a little less intense for me when I come back home.
Yeah, I think also when we go away, we often realize that we don't have a lot to complain about.
Yeah,
You see how some people, like what you're born into, determines a lot about what happens in your life.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I mean, when you go to some countries that have lower socioeconomic um statuses, yeah, it's humbling and it's a reality check. But you also see in a lot of those situations that those people are much happier than we are.
yeah,
They have a lot less. They're often way more generous, way kinder, way happier. And because they're basically just living a simple life, right? And surviving and
right.
like getting through the day. And we all really want the same things, right? We want shelter, we want clothing, we want food, we want to be loved, we want to have a laugh, we're curious. I mean, the when you brought up that story of those little kids that I met in that village, it was very sad at first to see them because they did not look well. But as soon as they started laughing, just because I showed them their picture, like it's that universal feeling that we all want to feel joy and like have a laugh. And no matter what you look like, where you're from, what your situation is, like we're all the same, right? We just have different circumstances.
Yeah, yeah. You get a little bit more of like the shared humanity component of life is like if we all kind of just maybe took care of each other a little bit more,
Yes,
right? Um,
yes.
I believe the world will be a better place, and it's obviously not a blanket statement, but it could be small acts. It could be things like holding doors, or it could be
Mhm.
something like, hey, I'm just gonna, pick up some food for this guy, my friend on the way to here, or like I'm gonna just buy some flowers, or I'm just not going to be an asshole today. You know what I mean? Like, so it could be something
Yeah.
that simple.
I think too that like when you travel a lot, you meet people from all walks of life. And I'm not even just talking about locals, like even fellow travelers are
Yeah,
different and you meet people that you would never expect actually to be in your friend group if you're at home, and you kind of accept everybody no matter like from all different walks of life. Not to say that you love everyone traveling, because you don't,
you
and you're
don't.
still a person.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But you do, it is this very interesting like social experiment where kind of the walls come down and you're more open to people. And I think for me, I noticed that like in my world, because I also have a fairly corporate life as well, I see sometimes like you'll see the security guard in the building or the concierge or whoever it is, and a lot of people are not always nice to those people.
That's right.
But I always talk to them and find out about their lives and what's going on. And you learn incredible things. So I think that this is like another thing that traveling does is like teaches you not to judge anybody,
Right.
and that we all have a story and that we all need to be treated equally. Should we all be so lucky to have that lesson, right? If travel is a privilege, but if we could all
Absolutely.
do it, we might find the world is a little bit kinder.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And, you know, it's I don't know. You know, another thing that I was finding in your book was that like the honesty, not only from yourself, but that I feel like other folks that you interacted with gave to you as well, right?
Hmm.
And one specific example, I think I forget, it might have been Cambodia, where
Mm.
you were what was that like resistant group that kind of it was like I can't even I don't take a shot at pronouncing it. Can you
So the Khmer Rouge.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, that
Yep,
was not going to be what I was going to say.
that's
So
all
I'm
right.
I'm glad you took that for me. But when I was in me and my wife went to Portugal a few years ago, and there happened to be this monument there where like this mass execution of Jewish people took place.
Mm.
And they don't shy away from that. They're like, that was a dark time in our
Yep.
history,
Hmm.
and it should never happen again. But like we leave it here for like that memoriam, right? And similar to I think it was one of the homes, or there was like some sort of like structure that
Yeah,
they like a museum that is now
prison. Yes.
yeah, the prison exactly.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's nice that they don't shy away from the negative parts of society, of their history, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because I'm from America, and I feel like we sometimes tend to like massage the message about the things that we've done wrong to people, right? It's it could be from
Canadians
slavery,
too.
yeah, like the Vietnam War, like
Hmm.
what do you call it, Somalia? Like there's so many things that like we just like don't get taught about in
Hmm.
school that happened. And in my eyes, right, when I started traveling, I was like, it's important to teach these things, right?
Hmm.
Because we
Hmm.
learned that man can do great things, but also can commit terrible atrocities, And that's just one example. But have you experienced things like that also, like across other countries that you've been to?
Um, I would say that the most was on that trip because
Yeah,
we were traveling through all those countries, and all those countries were impacted either by the Vietnam War or again by what was happening in Cambodia. Like they're all so close. But you're absolutely right. Like in Cambodia, yeah, they're it's openly there for people to see these things. But they don't love to talk about it. Like they're open as tourists. I won't say the word attractions, but to tourism. But any interactions I had with Cambodian people, they will certainly talk about their history, but they just like want to move ahead and
I
be
see.
funny and like magical, and they're the most magical people. But yes, it's very, very interesting that like I did in Germany, I went to like Dachau
Okay,
to the concentration
concentration.
camp
Mhm.
there. Yeah, which is it's quite upsetting. And I think like for me as a Canadian, I can't relate to it, like I've I've grown up in a very safe country.
Right.
And I think when I was in Cambodia, I was hit so hard because I had a friend that was born into that. He was born in 1977, which was right at the time that this happened with the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot. And I had gone to college with him, and he had never talked about it. And I didn't even know this history. I'm
Yeah,
embarrassed to say I only learned about it on that trip. And when I learned about it, I was very upset because I was like, how could it be that I was friends with this guy, very good friends, and I had no idea.
yeah.
And he said to me once, I remember I was moaning about my life in some stupid way in my 20s. And he said to me, if you ever want to hear about a bad day, you just ask. And I
Oh,
was like, what? What does that mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was all that he said, and he left it at that. And then when I went there, I was like, "Oh, that's what
That's
he's talking about."
that's a
And
bad
like
day.
his family like escaped to Thailand and they lived in a refugee camp and he ate garbage for like many years. And it was just like, and when I went to Cambodia, I'm sorry, I'm dwelling on that story, but
Mhm.
it was also what you said earlier. It's like it is so important for us to see these things because it wasn't that long ago, and it's like human beings can act so horrifically, and we always think it's like, oh, we've evolved so much, that must have been so long ago, and
Yeah.
it's really not. And that is the part that is shocking, that we're still carrying on like this.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And first off, I'm here to hear your stories, Melissa. So feel free to talk as much as you'd like to. I'm here to hear everything you got to say. Um, but no, it's one of those things where I think I don't know. For me, traveling sparked my interest in world history.
Yes.
Because, like you said, there's so much information. Like you realize that was I mean, for me, it was filtered as I was growing up. I didn't learn a lot, and
Yeah.
you have to understand that if we don't comprehend or ingest these things, they are likely to happen again,
Yeah.
right? And I could go on and on. I definitely want to order a book. If you have a book on the can you tell me the name of this group one more time?
Oh, the Khmer Rouge.
Khmer Rouge. If you have like a book or something you can send my way, or anything that you've read on it, feel free to send it my way. I definitely want to learn more about it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how I felt. I was fascinated as well. And Pol Pot, who was the leader, and it is fascinating. It's horrifying, but I agree with you. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I was big into the Holocaust like books, and the rise of fascism for a little bit.
Mm.
Um, I don't know why, like my wife and I, when we can't sleep, we'll put on like a fascist documentary and it puts us right to sleep. I don't know what that says about me, but that tends to happen. So once I started reading books, like there's like a lot of themes you see. One, it was a time where there was a lot of economic strife. It was tough in Germany and the areas, right? And it was post World War One. There was a lot of like war repercussions that had happened. Germany got kind of the brunt of like what was it? The Treaty of Versailles, I think it was. They got the brunt of like whatever came out of World War One. And
Mm.
so people were pissed off in Germany. People were poor, poverty, and then you got someone who comes to power, right? Someone who can speak well, like Adolf Hitler, right? Someone who knows how to
Mm.
like sway opinion. And ultimately, because of all this poverty and this strife, he gets a following, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of just a nutshell. I'm dumbing it down, right? But then you see it even throughout history, right? In the Roman Empire, when you come to like the Mongol Empire, and maybe even now, right? Like it's a tough time in America, right? And it has been with COVID and everything like that. And you have folks maybe like, I don't know, like Elon Musk or someone that
Mm.
comes in and just has a really good narrative, right? And one thing that I learned is to always question those narratives.
Yes.
Don't just take them because they're nice to hear and they sound good when you say them, right?
Yes.
This is how, like, educate yourself, learn about it, think about what the repercussions of if you act upon that, what's going to happen to somebody else, right? So
Mm.
these are types of things I learn when I travel. And
Mm.
to your point, it makes me want to invest more in people
Yes.
than it does in technology or things like that.
Totally. And thank goodness you think like that. We need more people to think like that at the moment. But
Yeah.
yeah, people are fascinating and they're like the biggest parts of adventures and learning and again going back to Cambodia and other places where they've had like such strife, it's the people that like rebuild and fight back and come back. It's that blows my mind that like they have it in them to
Hmm.
carry on and to renew and figure it out. It's just like the resilience of people is unbelievable.
Yes, yes, and that is you're just like striking all these gold nuggets here, right? Like there's people going back to what we were talking about earlier. There's so many people in the world that are doing so much with so little, and
Yes.
it's so resilient, and it's so inspiring and motivational. Because I mean, I would like to say that I would do that. I would adjust, but I don't know, right? Like, I don't know if I would sink
Yeah.
or swim in those moments and be able to maintain a positive attitude. But if you see
Yeah.
someone that does, you're just like, you just can't help but admire, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think it also, it's like we live in worlds of great abundance, and not everyone, certainly there's problems in Canada. I know there's problems in the States. Not everyone is living in great abundance, but um, yes, when you do travel and you see how people are living and what they're doing and in order to survive and make it work for them. It's just like you realize we have just too much. I remember going, I think I was in Nicaragua and then I came home and I went to a grocery store in Canada
Yeah.
and I just felt sick. I was like, no one could possibly eat all this food in this grocery store. What are they doing with it? Where is it going? and having just come from somewhere where there was hardly anything on the shelves and people are just like getting by with whatever they can get. And I don't know, it's just that part can be really jarring, when you're going from extremes to see like how people are living around the world. It's fascinating but
Yep.
scary.
Yes, exactly. Fascinating but scary. I it really is. It's so interesting. I was just in Patagonia like a month ago.
Ah,
Um,
nice.
yeah, yeah, and when you go into the park,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing there, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
completely dead, and there's no signal or anything like that. And so when we stayed, the place we were staying was just like a little lodge, right? It was like a cabin, no TVs, no Wi-Fi, nothing like that.
Nice.
And it was awesome. I got an itinerary for you if you want it, Melissa. I can send it your way.
I've done
Oh, you
Patagonia.
have? Okay, so you're seasoned out there. You know what it is. But you meet people who live on these ranches and these places that like that are simple abodes, and
Yeah.
I just can't help but sit them all down and ask them like what their story is.
Yeah.
Dude, are you married? Do you have kids? Like, how do you live here all year round? Like where do you go
Yeah.
like for the
I
other half of
know.
the year? Things like that. It's just like,
Yeah.
and they're like young people, old people, everyone in between, and you're just sitting there like, wow. For 6, 7 months out of the year, you're just off the grid, and
Yeah.
then you go maybe to like Santiago or like Buenos Aires for like a month or something like that, and I'm just sitting there like this is a whole different schema of how to live your life. It's
Yeah.
completely different from what I'm doing?
And fascinating, isn't it? And like we, you know, probably can't even fathom a life without the internet at this point.
Yeah.
So to meet somebody like that, it's like otherworldly, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's like it's like this wave of like feeling comes over you, right? It's like I don't
Yeah.
even know what feeling it is.
Yeah.
When we first landed in the park, I like knew right away we were not gonna have signal for like a week, and there was a
Yeah.
little bit of anxiety there. But I like after a couple hours locked in, but my buddy was just beside himself. He's like, I don't know what we're gonna do. We have to find something, and I was like, dude, just chill out. It's going to take a day or two to like relax through it. And then once you're in, and then we forgot about it, right? We spent time
Yeah.
together like we never have before. And we made memories and experiences that we never could have imagined, right? And like similar to yourself, like just
Yeah.
jumping into
Yeah.
this, 3-month excursion with James, right? You didn't know probably what you were getting yourself into to a certain extent, but
Never.
you come out with more resilience, more strength, more resolve, which I think is always worth the strife that you kind of go through to get there.
Totally. And it's like the unknown is a real joy, right? And if the unknown is also like being disconnected from the internet for a week, how cool is that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's part of the joy of going away, I think. We know way too much about our routines and our lives, and like when you travel, you have no idea what will happen every day. And isn't that fun?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And like, now like obviously you've been traveling extensively for many years, and I'm traveling a lot these days too. I don't know if you feel this way, maybe in your own way. Do you feel as if you're like before you embark upon a trip, like you're like I'm wondering when this wow moment's gonna happen, or when those wow moments are gonna happen? Do you like think about that? Like for example, like these like going back to the kids you saw in Laos, or just the chipper nature of the Cambodian people, or just that water festival they had out there, right? There's all that's like something I didn't even know existed, right? And that's probably a
Yeah.
huge wow moment, right? And
Mm.
like I always seek those. I'm like, when am I gonna find one? Is that something that like you actively think about when you're like planning a trip, or is it more just something that you reflect on like post trip?
I usually have zero expectation
Okay, nice. That's the
because
way to be.
I feel like for me that is the best. And I think though what you're asking, what I wonder is who's coming across my path.
Mm,
Who's it going to be? That's
yes.
always the interesting one. And
Yeah.
it doesn't always happen right away, but but I think cuz I've gone away a lot, that's what's consistent for me is like after you've traveled several times, that's going to happen. So it's like, okay, who's it going to be? Who's coming my way?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And do you find that like your lust for travel or your desire for travel is as strong as 2010, if not stronger, or is it do you find a different type of feeling as you embark upon your journeys?
Yeah, it's totally different. I
Yeah.
would say I don't love airports or planes like I used
Yeah, yeah,
to.
yeah,
So these days, like the night before when I'm packing, because I'm always the last minute packer because I hate
yeah.
packing.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I don't even want to do this. Why am I going? I'm so over it. Why do I keep doing this to myself? So that part has changed. And then once I'm there, I'm like, okay, it's all worth it. But I don't love that the way that I used to.
Yeah,
Um, and yes, I have changed in that now I really focus on active travel. So like hiking, cycling trips, the odd paddling trip is way more appealing to me than just travel for travel's sake.
yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at,
Nice.
to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of cycling, how did you know that Cuba was a good place for a cycling trip?
I didn't.
Oh, you did it. Okay.
I just I mean sometimes these things are very random for me. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I'm like I'm just gonna go do that, you know?
Right.
And I did. So I don't always think too long or hard about it. I just feel like sometimes things get into my nervous system and I just need to go and do
Gotta
it.
go do it. Yeah.
Yes, it's
I mean, that's a
time.
surefire way for it to get done, right?
Yes.
Versus like perseverating in the planning phase of
Mm.
something like that. Sometimes you just gotta do
Yeah.
enough research and just go do it, because
Yeah.
otherwise you'll research yourself to death, right?
I don't do a ton of research either, to be honest. Like
Okay.
I often do group trips, so I will go on my own and then you're with like 10, 11 strangers.
Mm.
But I if I pick the right companies, I'm like they do all the planning for me. I'm
Oh,
quite
nice.
lazy actually, to be honest, in that way. I hate trip planning.
Yeah.
I will do it when I have to and if I have to, because I do sometimes just do trips completely on my own. But if I'm stretched for time or there's like a certain thing I want to see and do and there's a group that will do it, I that's my ticket.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it takes away a lot of the hassle, right? So you can just
Oh,
focus on the experience.
totally. And it's more fun and you're not like, constantly like where am I staying next? How am I getting there? That is exhausting, especially if you're on your own. If you're with a partner, I like it. It's quite fun to just like the two of you to do that, but
Yeah.
solo traveling like that for me after a couple weeks is very tiring.
Thanks for dealing with me on that. I should probably just spring for a paid account, huh? But maybe I'm just too
Eh.
cheap for it.
I mean, whatever, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's cool. It's cool that we can do things like this, right? In the age we're in, because I feel like when I first started listening to podcasts, I actually don't listen to any podcasts really, but I listened to Joe Rogan a little bit when in 2017, and I was like, this is so cool that two or three people can sit down and just talk.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
like who would have thought that would be so cool, And you just like share little tidbits, little stories. And like right then, I was like, I'm gonna start one, and we're gonna
Oh,
start
so
talking to
Joe
people.
Rogan's responsible for all this?
Yeah, yeah, he's responsible for my shenanigans and my debauchery online, honestly. Yeah, he gave me good insight into like I don't know what the potential like that like a man could be, right? I think growing up around the men that I grew up, they were just very like provider, like no emotion, stoic, things like that. And he kind of
Hmm.
showed me that, I could have an emotional side, I could laugh and cry and everything in between if I wanted to and be confident about it. And who's to tell me that I can't do those things, right?
Yeah,
And I don't
that's
have to
good.
define myself and be like a masculine guy only. So it was
Hmm.
that's how I got started in all this. But that is a backstory, my friend. I have a question about this lady right here.
Oh, my mom.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about your mom. You briefly speak about her in what I've read so far, but the fact that you dedicated this book to her is huge. So
Hmm.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your mom and her influence on you.
Yes. So, well, my mom died in 2020
Oh,
and she died of Alzheimer's. So that is why she's in there. And I put that in because my mom, I mean, she loved adventures. Like she traveled quite a bit as well. But it was more because my mom and I are very, very similar.
okay.
So we had a very similar sense of humor. She got my humor. So that was part of it. And that's why I wrote, like, no one would appreciate this story more than you, or however it is that I wrote it,
Yeah.
because we shared that. She was also very, very independent, my mom. I mean, my dad raised me, so there's a lot more to this story than that, but my mom sort of had her own strange independent life. So we're very similar in sort of our attempts to be independent and on our own, even though there always seems to be some sort of man in the background. So there's a bit of that. And yeah, just like that whole, yeah, trying to figure out, what you're all about, and in that way. So that's really, I mean, as much as my mom was adventurous and loved to travel, it was more about like me, like saying, this is where I'm at, and it's going to be done with humor, and I'm like this debate about this relationship, and so yeah, that's what that's all about.
Nice, nice. No,
Hmm.
I'm sorry to hear about your mom.
Oh, that's all right.
I know that was probably very tough for you to go through. With Alzheimer's is a terrible, terrible disease. I've had a few
Terrible.
friends whose parents who have dealt with that too, and it's tough for everybody involved. So
It's
I'm
tough for
sure that
everybody involved.
yes,
And I would have loved for my mom to have read this book. And when I did all those emails back in 2010, I mean, she got them, but I think like that was when she was starting to get a little bit sick. So I don't think that she even really caught on to like what was going on.
yeah.
But I know wherever she is out there, she's read the book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm sure she's smiling. I think that she's probably very proud of you as well.
Well, thanks.
This is a very, very, very great travel, kind of diary. I love it. It's kind of the same way like I write my journals, so I resonate super hard with it. Um,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, yeah. I think you briefly mentioned something like about fulfillment when you were speaking about your mom. Um, and I'd love to drill down a little bit more into that, right? And it's a perfect segue because in like page 3, right, of your book, I kept convincing myself with each new job I took, events management, admin, scheduling, none of them were great. I would finally be fulfilled, and this urge would pass.
Mm.
So tell me a little bit more about that. What tell me a little bit about not being fulfilled in this scenario. And
Hmm.
obviously travel fulfills you, but tell me about like tell me more about why you started seeking fulfillment from things if you were actively doing it and what that journey looked like for you to find things that fulfilled you.
I think that I didn't really pay enough attention to career choices. So I'm a bit older than you, as we've already discovered. And in my day, when you went to university, there was a much bigger philosophy to be, or way of thinking to be like, pick the thing. What's the thing that you're going to do?
Right.
And when you are somebody like me who is good at certain things, like I was always good at writing, I loved drama class. Um I think I in hindsight I should have like dialed into those things,
Sure.
but you also think that when you back then if you pick that one thing, then you're cutting off all these other opportunities, and there was no discussion about blending them, or like how I think it is now. I think now we all realize that all of these things can intertwine.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, that was not the case. And so instead of picking the one thing and then down the road realizing I could do that, I picked nothing. So I went to school for sociology and English and anthropology, which was great. I
Mhm.
learned wonderful things, but in hindsight, I should have like really gone a different way, like into journalism or broadcasting or whatever it is. And so because of that, I have ended up doing jobs that were like just sort of, kept me afloat. So I worked in advertising, I worked in hotels, I worked in publishing, I now work at the university. So at 35, when the opportunity for me was to go, I was like, well, why wouldn't I do that? Because I kept in the back of my head for all these years, I was always like, I just want to travel. I want to have adventures. I want to do this. I want to do that. But I was like, but maybe it's because I haven't like found the thing, the
Hmm.
career thing. So I kept trying. I was like, well, I'll try this job. Well, I'll try this. And if I try those things, maybe this chatter in the back of my head will go away. And it never did. So then I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing keeping me here. And then what I learned actually when I came back from that trip is like, yeah, so like a year or two after that trip, I got a radio show, and then down the road I wrote a book. So all of these things that maybe I should have realized when I was younger, I'm now doing them, right? So it's never
Right.
too late, and eventually if it's in you, you're going to find your way there. It just
Yeah.
doesn't look like what it looks like for everybody else. So that's what that meant, what you just read from the book. It was just like nothing was like checking the box for me.
Yeah, yeah. And it seemed like, yeah, like you were saying, like nothing was feeling like it, right? Nothing was feeling
Mm-mm.
like this is the thing that I'm gonna
No.
dedicate life, time, energy, resources to. And like why is that, Melissa? Why is it that we feel that we need to have fulfillment from like our career? Like, it seems normal. It seems like r rational. It seems logical, but I also can't understand why. I can't understand
I
why we
hear you.
feel like we need to do that.
You're right. And you know what? A lot of people don't talk about it. And I think the other thing that was happening around me at 35 was that like people were getting married, people were having babies, and people were like committing to these careers, and none of that appealed to me. None of it
Right.
made sense to me. And I think it was the same thing. I was just like what you're saying, like why do we think that this is supposed to happen? These all of these things. And I think that what I've learned since is like I've rarely met anyone that loves their day job or their career. Once in a while I meet those people, but I think we're kind of taught that like that's supposed to be the be all end all. And in some ways I feel like I it's been very interesting for me because I've actually carved a path that's allowed me to do so many other things, and has like hasn't been my focus, my day job, but it's like given me the freedom to explore all these like interests that I have.
Yeah.
And maybe that's been, maybe I'm the lucky one, right, in the long run. But I don't know. I think the whole career job world is very confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is like the best way to put it. I honestly want to clip that last thing that you just said because it's so true that how to put it, I'm fortunate that I felt like early on enough in my life, I like kind of compartmentalized work, right? I was like, I want to do my job well. Just because I don't put all my stake in it doesn't mean I'm not going to do my job well. I excel in the things that I do, that I commit to. But knowing that feeling, acknowledging that feeling of not feeling fulfilled from my job is the first step in the journey, I felt like, right? To say, all right, I can acknowledge that this doesn't feel right, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean I have to change it entirely, right?
Mm-hmm.
That just means I have to view it. I got to turn it on its head, right? This is a thing that allows me, like, it's my springboard, right? It provides me the financial stability to go do the things that I want to do, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
I do a lot of other, side endeavors, right? I take photos as well. And what I realize about that is it's a passion because when I travel, I see such great things, such good moments. I want to make a little movie about it. I want to capture that moment and, be able to reflect on it later and just share it again. But a lot of times like clients are kind of fucking annoying, like they,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like you get some clients and then they're so demanding, they treat you like you're a slave. And then I'm just sitting there like, you're ruining the thing that like I love, right? And so, these types of things come up and like to your point, I think it's so important, to keep your passions,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so easy in this world we live in to lose it and to turn it into something that's like, oh, I'm going to do this for monetary reasons, I'm going
Yes.
to do this for stature and ego and things like that. And then it becomes that,
Yes.
and
Totally.
that to me is so demoralizing because I've seen people who like I've seen fellow photographers who are just like so innocent, like they got their first camera and they love it, and now they're like the shell of a human being, like doing weddings every single weekend and
Oh,
just can't stay
yeah.
afloat,
Yeah.
and that to me is sad. And I think more people. should be having banter like you and I are having right now, you know,
Yes, yes.
because it's fulfilling. And you know, I mean, obviously you're on a book tour and everything like that, but I mean, the way you had reached out to me is just all good energy. Like, hey, I liked your conversation with Justin. Like, maybe could we possibly talk? And that to me makes me just so happy.
Oh, well, yes, here we are. I
Hmm.
think too, like I this is something I've been thinking about recently is that if you are um a person who likes adventures or travel, and I'm just thinking about myself here,
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm nomadic in a lot of different parts of my life. So I have lived in the same city for over 20 years. So clearly I'm not nomadic in that way, but nomadic in terms of relationships, be it romantic or friendships, nomadic in terms of hobbies and passions and jobs, even. So I was thinking about this recently where it's like being someone who likes adventure, likes to travel, can also be in your own life too, right? I feel like I'm sort of traveling through all these different universes in regular life too. Like there's so many tentacles to being a traveler, you right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I didn't really put that together until like very recently.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, we learn, right? And I think that's one
Hmm.
thing we learn at all stages in life. And it's important that we open ourselves up to learning through
Hmm.
travel, whatever it might be, right? And you know, it's funny like that on that note is you know, I like the nomadic phrasing, right? Because I think through traveling, I don't know about you, I've become better at being detached from things, right? You know, I
Mm.
feel, you know, what I experience a lot in life is like when we get something good, we want to keep recreating it, right? But we don't enjoy that moment, right? Just because we want to recreate it. And you know, like so much of like these funny stories and these like wholesome stories that you have about, I forget, like there was like a woman traveling with her daughter.
Mm.
And she gave her some money to you know like whatever right to like pursue after they got back or the dude whose bag you forgot when he went jumping in the ocean and he got his
Oh.
ID stolen and everything like that. These I mean these are funny stories, right? And they're stories that you'll remember forever. And maybe not the bag thing, but like maybe I think what this lady's name was it
Mm-hmm.
BEA? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe like those types of moments, right? Like she seemed like a crazy lady, you know, crazy fun lady. Like you want to hang on to that for a little bit, right? Because she felt
Mm-hmm.
comforting in that moment. She felt like maybe
Yes.
an older presence in that moment. But if you were so focused on maintaining and sustaining that moment, you might not
Mm.
have been you might not have written this book, right? Because you might
Totally.
have been so caught up in trying to figure that out again, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the thing, what we were talking about earlier is why for me I try to be in the moment and have like no expectations of any moment. It's also like when people focus on seeing things like the Taj Mahal or Machu Picchu or the Eiffel Tower or whatever it is, there's so much pressure put on that moment. And there was a really funny show that came out years ago. It was Ricky Gervais and
I love Ricky
um,
Gervais.
what was that guy's name? His buddy. Anyway, the show was basically about his friend, and I can't remember his name, who they sent to all of these iconic places
Okay.
was like, I feel nothing. Like I'm here at the Great Wall of China and like I'm thinking about what I had for breakfast. And he's like, why do we put so much emphasis on how you feel in this moment looking at this structure? And I totally get that because I have seen those things, those beautiful things, and like I will tell you actually the Great Wall is pretty amazing,
Okay.
so is Machu Picchu and blah blah blah. But there's also so much pressure put on you to feel a certain way, and if you don't, you're like, do I feel the right way? And is this how I'm supposed to feel? What do other people feel? And that I hate that, and for so I try not to like do that to myself because, and to be honest with you, like I remember when I went to Machu Picchu, it was awesome, but that's not what I think about when I went to Peru. I was in Peru for 3 weeks. I think about the people that I was with, the laughs, like some of the funny moments with them, some of the crazy things we did. I don't like sit there and go, "Oh my God, looking at Machu Picchu." Like
Right. Yeah.
just, like yes, it's magical and special, and I'm so glad that I saw it, but there's this, and I don't even know how I got onto this track, but here we are. But anyway, there's this weird like expectation and pressure that we put on ourselves in certain moments, and I really just try not to do that anymore. Even this year I did like the this hike in Italy in the Dolomites,
Okay.
and that was big for me, and I think it ties into what you're saying about like these moments, right, that we're supposed to hold on to. But it's like when I think back about that trip, some of the fondest things I think about are going to bed with a book at 8 o'clock at night and just being so happy about the day that I had. Like I try not to really put anything into like like premeditated moments, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe just took us way off course, but something
No.
you said triggered that for me.
No, no. I'm here to hear all of these things because it's just at baseline, right? Like a lot of times, I don't know if this happens to you, right? There might be something that you either know or don't know, but for the things
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes I might be thinking, sometimes somebody just phrases it differently, and then
Mm-hmm.
it sticks with me forever, right? And like this conversation is full of those things because
Oh.
we travel often, right? You and I both travel often, and so
Mm.
we're bound to experience similar feelings, but at the same time your perception and your life experience is different than mine, and I would behoove myself to like not learn from someone like you, right? So
Yeah.
I'm all about the little stories here and there, Melissa. But um, yeah, so going back to what we were talking about with fulfillment is so and obviously travel seems very fulfilling for you, but tell me about how writing has become fulfilling for you, because it seems like, right, it's I won't say it's more recent, like you were sending emails even like throughout this time, so it seemed like writing and communicating was something that came naturally to you, right?
Mm.
And but tell me how that turned from maybe something you just did regularly to something like like I hearing about Peru and Patagonia and Italy and stuff like that is exciting for me, because there's gonna be more of these coming my way probably. But tell me more about like how this started fulfilling you.
Well, I think it happened on that trip, you know.
Okay.
So when you're with somebody who has a purpose on a trip and you don't, like I was the tag along, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
James was meeting with hotels and making business connections and tour operators and blah blah blah. And I certainly went along with him to some of those meetings, but this was not my baby. This was his baby.
Right.
So when you are with someone who has a purpose and you don't, it's not easy. And I so on these long trains and buses, I started coming up with these stories, which became emails, which I sent home to people. And I do remember, like, as everyone started saying how much they were loving the emails and they were sending them to their friends and their
Nice.
families. And something in the back of my head did say, maybe there's something to this. And I remember because I didn't stay on the trip as long as he did. And I did have a moment in my head where I went, well, I think I have enough for my book.
Yeah.
Crazy to think that now. But yes, I do think that I knew there was something in it, and it took me a long time to like come to that. But I do love writing, and I love telling the story, and I love using humor, and I love like just feeling like that person is beside me. So there is definitely something in that for me. It doesn't mean that it's easy.
Yeah.
Writing is actually very challenging and in many different ways, but yeah, there is certainly something in that, in describing the world and doing it in a human way, you know, that makes people feel like they can relate, and that I'm not some like superhuman. I'm just a regular person out doing these things. That's kind of what I can't write about things I don't know. I've tried to write um like in, you know, some story that has nothing to do with my life, and I cannot do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm
It
not
doesn't
a
seem
fiction
authentic.
writer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure you'd be good at it, right? If
Mm,
you did take a stab at it, but this seems just way more aligned. And one thing I like what I'm hearing, right? I might make a connection here is that, similar with this book. So like, there's some books that you read that they're a little tougher to pick up, right? It's like I gotta read today because I have formed a habit. Like it's part of my, my cycle of things I do. I have to read today. I have to read 10 pages a day. But there's this book I would say has very what I call low activation energy. It's like it's easy to pick up, it's easy to get, you kind of read. I find it's aligned, so
Yeah.
it does
Yeah.
that. And but that is also a principle I use for other activities and just new endeavors in my life, right? Like picking up my camera is easy for me. I like doing it. I like bringing it along with me. A lot of people they'll be like, dude, you fucking carry that thing around with you all day, and I'll be like, yeah, it just feels like it feels like a wallet. I just need it when I go out. Or when it's like time to pick up a trip, just say, oh, that's easy. I'll just plan it out real quick. It just comes naturally to me. But then there's things
Mhm.
like work, where it's like that's high activation energy for me. It's like, all right, I gotta get up and log on and get on this meeting, right? And
Yes.
it seems like it's I wouldn't say easy, but maybe lower activation energy for you to write about your travels because it's maybe more aligned or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think that if you have a gift, and I will say photography is a gift, writing is a gift,
Yep.
you don't do it, something feels wrong.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't know. Like sometimes I've walked around for weeks or months going, I feel agitated or like I don't know why. And then as soon as I write anything, I feel better.
Hmm.
And it feels like my body is going, thank God. Like, don't you realize this is what you're supposed to be doing?
Yes.
So I think we don't have a choice, right? Like as soon as you tap into the fact that this is like something that gives you a spark and that you're good at it, then you have a contract like with yourself. You have to do it. And
Yes.
that's something that I've become more aware of. And I think when you're little, I wish someone had talked to me about this because I think when you're a little kid, you experience so many things and nobody says to you, pay attention when your body lights up
Yeah.
and follow that and keep doing that because when you're little you think everyone feels like you. Doesn't everybody love being in this play right now? Doesn't everybody love singing in this choir? Doesn't everybody love reading? And then later you're like, actually no, they didn't. They
Right.
didn't
Right.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you realize that that was your special sauce, right?
Best.
So I think that as an adult I'm now like going, okay, I get it. Like, and writing this book has certainly helped in the feedback and how people are responding to it. But yes, I think now, like just like you, like that camera is like natural to you and you have to do it. Like it makes
Right.
sense to you, right? So that's very interesting to me.
Yes, yes. And I mean, this is a newer concept, but it seems like, from your book, you can tell that you're a very playful person, right?
Mm.
And even now, I can tell that too. And it seems like these things that you're mentioning, the way I phrase it is like you're taking care of your inner child, right? As an adult.
Yes.
You're playing, you're making new experiences with an innocent outlook, right? You have the tools that an adult has, but to me it seems like, right, like from your book, you're going with a childlike wonderment.
Yes.
And I think that is
100%.
something that we lose as adults, and it's so easy to lose in this world, and
Mhm.
if we don't continue to nurture these things, we become shells of ourselves, I feel like.
Yeah, and also it's um you become miserable, right? Like if we
Yeah.
all did the things we love to do, again, like we were saying earlier, the world would be a happier place
Yeah.
because we're
Yeah.
happier. Like you have
Hmm.
to look after you, and then when you look after you, you can look after other people.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Hmm.
one thing I like to ask a lot of people that I have on the podcast here, and it's a super general question, but are you happy?
Mostly. And you know what? I think life does get better with
Yeah.
age. I think you don't sweat the small stuff as much. Certainly, crappy things continue to happen to you, but you realize what to get worked up over and what you can't control. And I think you relax like more and more into yourself as you get older. So I think I'm much happier than I used to be.
Love that. Love
How
that.
about you?
I would say yes. I would say, like probably a very strong yes. And I thank you for asking, and I think I've identified the things that make me happy, but I
Hmm.
also leave space for other things to make me happy. And when, like to your point, when something makes me happy, I just try to go do it. Um,
Yes.
one of my buddies, he had a daughter a couple years ago, and she is like a little angel. And when I go see her, when he first had her, I would go see her, and I would just he's like my best friend, so I have a lot of emotional attachment to him. And then when I would go see her, I would see this like extension of him in her, and she like we kind of like hit it off right away.
Hmm.
And even though I'm not sure if me and my wife want to have kids, I really enjoy like the feeling I get from spending time with her. So then I
Hmm.
just go do it. I just once a
Yeah.
week I'll just show up to his house and be like, I don't care if you're here or not. Like I'm just gonna play with your daughter, right? So um and so that makes me really happy.
Hmm.
Traveling obviously makes me happy. Exercise I think doesn't directly make me happy, but
Hmm.
it kind of gets the endorphins out and levels me off. So
Yeah.
that really makes me happy. Photography, reading makes me really happy. I find reading to be like traveling for the mind.
Yes.
And I find the same type of euphoria if I read a good book that I do when I have a good, trip abroad.
Yes.
Those types
Yeah.
of things, and then yeah, spending time with friends. I golf a lot these days. I got into a golf bro phase, and it just those types of things make me happy, and I go do them. And
Yeah.
if something doesn't make me happy, I not that everything's supposed to make me happy, but I acknowledge that it doesn't make me happy, and I try not to do as much of it, if I don't have to. So
Yeah.
that's the only positivity thing. I try to just make sure I'm always happy, and I do feel as if I'm happy. Yep.
That's good. I
Yeah.
like that. There's
Hmm.
an interesting thing I read or heard like in the last year about reading, and they said if you learn to love reading, you will never be alone. And it's so
Wow.
true, right?
That is powerful. That is very
Yeah.
powerful because
Yes.
you can always have a good book on you. There's always
Yes,
someone to look forward to there. Yeah.
absolutely.
Are you a are you a are you a hard copy reader, or do you do like the Kindle and stuff like that when you read books?
I would rather have something in my hands.
Yeah.
How about you?
Same, same. I'm
Yeah.
like I mean, I tag this whole book up. I'm like, I underline and write in and
Oh, look at you.
things like
Thank
that.
you.
So yeah, of course,
Mhm.
one thing I tried to do in when I was reading your book was like when you have your timestamps like on your notes, to be like, where was I? So
Mm.
I forget where you were. It was recent when I was reading this. It was June of 2010, or 2010. Yeah, and that was like right when summer, after high school was starting. So it was like one of those things where, like, for me, the summer after high school was like amazing. Like going before I went into college, we just had so much fun. We were always out, just doing stuff with the guys. I had like my first girlfriend at the time, so it was like, first love and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, she was in Cambodia, at that time. Well, I was over here in Aurora, Illinois, just doing like God knows what. So
Oh,
it's
that's
like,
hilarious.
yeah, yeah. So it's funny because like you have a story to tell in here, right? Like, and it's a great story, and I'm looking forward to finishing this book. But it also it also just shows you that there's so many timelines in the world, and it can be daunting, but it can also be so liberating because it's like who cares? Like, right? I care, right? I care about this book. I care about my timeline, but I'm not expecting everyone to care, and that is so liberating because
Yeah.
I can do almost whatever I want to do, and
Yes, now more than ever.
right? And it matters, but it also, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter either. And that there's liberation in both sides of that coin, right? Because we can both do something silly, and that's what it is. It's just something silly that we did,
Yep.
or
Yep.
we can do something extremely novel, and we have that capability as human beings. And I think that is just so amazing that we can do things like that, and just the human experience continues to humble me because there can be billions and billions of different people in this world, but we all experience it differently.
Yes, totally. And should be always learning from each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I know we're probably coming up on time. I don't want to take your whole night here. But I don't you the time is like going by really quickly. So we definitely got to do another one of these in the future. And as you develop more books, and I just would love to speak to you again about your travels because this is only one book, right? Like you have a whole repertoire of stories. And I bet you have so many more emails and stuff that you're gonna share, and I'm looking forward to it. But if you can, like maybe give us a little rundown on, you know, this book here, right? Maybe not like a summary, but like why should someone go pick this book up? And also maybe if you can tease what's on the horizon for Melissa and Fly Travel Radio.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much and that you're reading it. That's awesome. And I appreciate all your amazing questions. And it's been a very, very cool conversation. So, this book, people need to read it for many reasons. One, it's easy, it's fast. I've had a lot of people read it who haven't read a book in a million years and they flew through it. So that's very good. But I think it's funny. I think it's honest and relatable. And I think that if you're interested in that part of the world, it's a very good itinerary as well. It'll inspire you and it will give you some ideas. But I think a lot of people read it who have never been anywhere and they just love like that it's an armchair adventure and that they're
Yeah,
along for the ride.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I think it's cool to write something honestly, like I again like to be very transparent. So I think that it's a good book and it's worth it. What's next? Well, I have started writing something new, but I don't know how long it will take, but I have started, so that's exciting. I also did some stand-up comedy last year, and I might give that another go
Do it.
this year. We'll see.
Yeah, I saw a link to something on your on at Bitly, I think it was, on your Instagram page. But
Yeah.
for some reason I couldn't get it to load, so I wanted to check that out as I was like prepping for this podcast. Maybe it was just something with my computer, like maybe I was being an idiot, but I definitely want to check that out too. You know what I mean? That would be really cool. And if you're ever in Chicago or if I'm ever in Toronto, I would love to look you up. Feel free to look me up. I would love to go to like we could do like an open mic together if we wanted to, you know.
You do
Um,
stand up?
I will go I go to a lot of shows. I go to the obviously like Chicago theater, bigger shows, but there's a lot of smaller comedy clubs here in the Chicagoland area.
Mm.
I'll go to them if they have an open mic. I'll pop in, I'll say a couple offensive things and be on my
Oh, good
way.
for
Yeah.
you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
I
it's
don't have
fun,
anything
right?
recorded, but it's super fun. It's super fun.
It is fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so just things like that,
Cool.
and then the usual, probably some trips here and there, but I'm just letting the universe kind of guide me at the
Yeah.
moment.
I love that. I love that. Well, I think you definitely took the humble route when it came to this book. What I will say is like this is a great read. I already have someone I know I want to gift this book to. So, I think just the ubiquitous nature of it, it applies to so many different people, whether you like to travel or you don't like to travel.
Yeah.
I think this
Yeah.
book is, like you said, it's written really honest and it's also vulnerable at times, right? Like you're sharing
Mm,
things in a lighthearted
mm,
way that are not easy to share. And I think
mm.
like uh, people should communicate more like this, right? They should communicate more. And you had a safe space with whoever you were emailing, but it seems like it was good for your soul. And I think reading this book would be good for your soul. And I would look forward to anything else that you put out just because of the honesty. And people should journal too more, right? They should reflect on their journeys and their life because you'll learn tidbits, not only from the travel, but from your reflections on your travel. And
Yeah.
you'll learn more about yourself, you'll learn about others, you'll learn about the world, you'll learn about history. And this is just a small, small, small testament to that. So I think anyone
Oh,
should go get that book or this book. It is amazing. And you
thank
did a wonderful
you.
job. Yeah.
Thank you. You are a wonderful person. I really appreciate all of your kind words. That's very kind.
Yeah, yeah.